Season 1, Episode 24. That's right, this is the last episode in Season 1, and we end it with one of the most creative rebels I've ever met, Toni Desrosiers. She's the inventor of beeswax food wrap, founder of Abeego, and recent recipient of the RBC Canadian Women Entrepreneurs Telus Trailblazer Award. What started in a camper van in Mexico has transformed into one of the most inspiring stories I've ever heard by one of the most inspiring people I've ever met. I don't want to give too much away, but we talk about inventing an entirely new food wrap category, how she works with SheEO to help other women entrepreneurs, and the importance of gardening. Well, there's even an offer to work with her on another one of her great ideas. Links will be in the description. It's all here in the final episode of Season 1 of Rebel Rebel. I'm your host, Michael Dean Dargy. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn. Check out the RebelRebelPodcast.com, our website, or follow Rebel Rebel Pod. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 24, Kicking Butt and Blazing Trails with Toni Desrosiers. Welcome to the final episode of Season 1 of Rebel Rebel. I'm sitting here in this great little studio space at Toni Desrosiers' place. Toni, welcome so much to the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. I'm super excited to be here.
Thanks. I love this place. It's great. We're on Vancouver Island, so you live in one of the most beautiful places in the entire world.
I agree. I live in Victoria. It's gorgeous here.
Yeah, beautiful. And we're out here in this little studio space in this garden. It's green. It's beautiful. It was a little drizzly today, but it was super nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Painting the picture.
Yeah. One of the things I love most about Victoria is when the skies turn gray, everything else just pops.
Oh, yeah.
So you see all this beautiful color.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. So, Toni, you're one of the most creative rebels I've ever met. And this is so perfect that it ends Season 1. Because you started a company 10 years ago. You just celebrated your 10th anniversary. It's called Abeego.
Yep.
And it is something that never existed before.
That's right.
And you concocted it, came from scratch. It's a way to protect your food. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Like just over in general, and then we'll get into how you came up with this crazy idea.
So I am the founder of Abeego and the inventor of beeswax food wrap. So basically beeswax food wrap is designed to keep food alive. Yep. Picks up where the peel leaves off. So it protects your food and breathes just like your lemon peel or cheese rind. Yeah. But it's totally natural. It's made with fabric infused with our formula of beeswax, tree resin, and jojoba oil. It's hand washable and reusable, and it saves food like no other food wrap on the market.
Right. So, I didn't know this, right? Because I've always been a Tupperware guy,
right?
Or a Saran wrap guy,
right?
Yeah. And so I honestly, and this I'm not plugging here. I've always done that, and my food would last whatever, like a couple days.
Yep. Low expectations.
Yeah. Totally low expectations. But so the other day I ended up buying some Abeego.
Yes.
And I used it, and I don't want to sound like I'm pumping you up, but I was blown away. Like it's changed now how I deal with food. I had a cucumber, long English cucumber. I'm like one guy. I can't eat a whole cucumber. So I wrap it up, and I forget about it in the fridge. I come back to it 2 weeks later, and I can still. It's just like I had a new cucumber.
Totally, it's alive.
Yeah,
you have a live cucumber.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it blew me away. And then I was making a pasta sauce the other night, and I had oregano. And oregano comes in those little plastic things, right? Because it's pretty much winter in Calgary, so I can't grow my own.
That's right.
And normally it's dead like within the week. And again, this is like 3 weeks old, and I pull it out, still stem, right off into the pasta. It's so good.
Yes. So that's what we like to hear. Those are, you're not alone in that feedback. That's what we get across the board. And that's why we're so confident that Abeego is an incredible food wrap.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. So let's back up, because I started this by saying you're one of the most creative rebels I've ever met.
Right.
Because you've created this thing which didn't exist before. But how did you come to it? I know some of the story. You were traveling and you noticed some stuff, and then you came back on a mission. Yeah.
Well, I guess, maybe the idea started when I was living in a camper van in my early 20s. Yeah. Maybe not so much the idea, but kind of like the space for the idea to grow. Yeah. When I was in my early 20s, I was living in Calgary, living a pretty toxic lifestyle, one that I wouldn't, I really wanted to move away from. But I felt like to do that, I needed to buy a crappy old GMC camper van and move to Mexico.
Oh my God.
like any 22-year-old would do.
Oh, sure.
And so that's what I did. I moved to Mexico, and along the way, I was like reintroduced to what real food was, because
Right.
yeah, in many of the small towns that we traveled through in Mexico, it was like tiny little grocery stores with like a fresh butcher counter and only fresh produce and very limited packaged and processed food. And so we were eating, avocados and tomatoes and, fresh meat, and everything was super, super fresh.
Yeah.
And so it made me start thinking a little bit differently of food. So that maybe was the birthplace of
Interesting.
reinventing food wrap.
That's really cool, because I think about this not as often as I should, but living in the city. So I live in Calgary and I live in Kensington. Mm-hmm. And you go walk to the places. But, you go into Safeway. And it's Safeway. So it's like you buy packaged stuff. You buy processed stuff. You buy food that isn't in season, because you can get anything you want anytime you want it.
Exactly.
If you're willing to pay for it. And, you're rushing around from one place to another. So you're grabbing some fast food, or you know what I mean? Like, so that to me is the toxic lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And it must have been such an awakening to realize that it's actually off that tree.
Totally. Well, I think that you nailed it. Like, we rush around and we just do things. And living in the camper van, I had hours and hours and hours of free time, more than I'd ever had in my life. And there was one occasion where my partner and I had learned about chocolate clams. First introduction to chocolate clams, and they were in the water right outside our van. All we had to do is dive 8 feet down under the sea to pull clams out of the ocean, which we did for about 8 hours. And that was our dinner. Our clams that we dug out of the bottom of the ocean.
Right.
Yeah.
So not at the grocery store, not waiting in line, don't need a debit card.
No, you just got to dive really deep for a long time.
That's amazing. So, all right. So let's fast forward a little bit. So this idea starts to germinate.
Yeah.
And you end up, back in Canada, and you've got this idea for a food wrap. How did this happen?
It probably started, I came back to Canada and I needed a job, and I wanted to kind of change my career path. I had always been a bartender server. Yeah. And so I went to nutrition school, and it was nutrition school that kind of like was the real catalyst for thinking about food in a different way. Yeah. So nutrition school helped me understand that the fresh food that I eat keeps me alive, because that fresh food itself is alive.
Right.
Like, revolutionary concept.
Right. So simple, yet so important.
Exactly. And that kind of started the process. And when I look back on 10 years ago, to say that I can't tell you that I invented Abeego to help keep food alive, because I didn't know that's what I was doing then. I just knew that plastic wrap really pissed me off.
Awesome. Okay. That's
I'm allowed
visceral.
to say that.
Yeah.
It just really bugged me. Yeah. So the way that I think is, I like things to be easy. I like design to be simple. I like it to work for me. And the reality of getting a piece of plastic out of that crappy box, dealing with that crappy sharp edge, it's sticking and clinging to itself before you can ever get it around what you're trying to wrap, has got to be the single most annoying invention on the planet.
But everybody uses it.
And nobody likes it.
Yeah.
Nobody is like, oh my God, I'm going to get the saran wrap out and wrap my food. Right. It's not a celebration. Yeah. It's total frustration. Yeah. And that was kind of the kind of where it started. I wanted to make a food wrap that was easy to use, made sense, and had all the modern convenience of plastic wrap, because that's what we're used to. Yeah. Wrap something, throw it in the fridge, and whatever.
So how did you come up with, because I mean, it's what, hemp and cotton is the fabric.
Yeah.
And then beeswax. I mean, can you take, and you don't have to give away anything proprietary, but how on earth did you come up with this? Because it's a thing you invented. Yeah.
So I mean, before Abeego, when I had the idea for it, you couldn't go onto Google and search alternative food wrap, or beeswax food wrap, or any other type of food wrap. It didn't exist, so that I couldn't go to Google and do research. So I started going to the library, and when I went to the library, what I realized is that we really don't have a great exhaustive digest of every way humans have ever store food throughout history.
Right.
It's pretty piecemeal and broken up, so it wasn't available there. Yeah. So then I started to look at stories, historical stories, to kind of grab clues about what people were doing. What were they using? What foods were they storing?
Right.
Were they storing food?
Sure.
What was different about then? And I also visited a lot of museums just to look at artifacts. What have we found that has been used as a food vessel, and what properties do those food vessels have, and are they the same as what we're doing with food today?
Interesting.
So that was kind of my research process, was to look back at history.
Do you, and I don't want to interrupt here too much, but there wasn't as much waste back then, I want to say.
There was barely any waste.
Right, you couldn't afford to. So
no. And so it's funny because sometimes people will say to me now, 10 years later, it's hard to believe that somebody invented beeswax food wrap. So some people will say, well, that's always been.
Right.
It really hasn't always been, because the habits that we formed when we started using plastic wrap didn't exist before plastic wrap.
Right.
Nobody was cutting a half a lemon and putting the other half away for another time.
Right.
Because it would rot or spoil or go off. Or they were lucky if they even had a lemon, especially in the north.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we didn't have lemons in the north, actually. So our plastic informed the way that we treat food today. It was very different before the modern storage methods.
Yeah, like refrigerators. I mean,
totally.
My grandmother in Surrey, she had a root cellar.
Yes.
And I remember this as a kid. It was the best place ever, because she would harvest stuff out of her garden. You know, go in the root cellar. She'd go down, pull it out, and fix dinner and stuff.
Totally. And so I always try to think about these things on a bit of a deeper level, and the root cellar has something in common with Abeego.
Oh.
It's breathable. It's not airtight.
See, that's weird to me.
Right? Because it's in the earth.
Yeah.
It's not airtight. And so when I think back on, in creating Abeego, I think what makes it so innovative is that I never looked at plastic wrap. So I didn't say to myself, how does plastic wrap work, and how can I recreate that and make it better?
Right.
Instead, I completely ignored it because I just thought it was a dumb idea. And I set some rules for myself.
Yeah.
So the ingredients, basically I had 5 rules. It had to be all natural ingredients.
Yep.
They couldn't be chemically altered.
Yep.
I wasn't allowed to use any plastic. Everything had to already be FDA approved, and everything had to have an antimicrobial, antibacterial, or antifungal property.
Right.
And it was within that box that I was allowed to create a product.
Good God. How? Like, those are some pretty big rules.
Yes. They were very, very big rules.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Man. All right. Well, and you know what? Beeswax makes sense because it's like nature's perfect food.
Right.
So that, honey is nature's perfect food. Beeswax is the byproduct of pupa, right?
It's a byproduct of the honey making process. Like the bees kind of like build it on their scales of their legs as they're pollinating and making beautiful honey.
Yeah, I love honey.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So you celebrated 10 years this year with Abeego.
I did.
You had the 10th anniversary.
Yes.
How did that feel?
Almost surreal.
Yeah.
I have to say, when I invented Abeego, I thought for sure this thing was like, I would have sold it for many billions of dollars in 10 years. Like, of course, it's just going to be this massive thing. And I didn't realize it was going to be a real slog to get people to start opening up and changing their minds to a new idea. So that's completely shifted now. We're at like a total tipping point, and people are snapping it up faster than we can make it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but so the 10th anniversary was pretty surreal.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people say that if you make it the first 5 years as an entrepreneur, you'll make it the rest of the way.
Yay.
That's what they say.
Yes.
So to get there, and you're not just in Canada, you're worldwide.
Yeah, we are.
As well, which is rad.
Yes, we are gaining popularity around the world.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So you put a whole bunch, like you put yourself, your entire being into your business, which takes a toll because you also have a partner and you've got a daughter.
I do.
And that's got to be tough.
Yeah.
Doing that and putting things aside.
Yeah.
And I'm setting you up because I know what happened this summer during your 10th anniversary is you got married to your partner.
I did, yeah. We broke the rules and didn't plan a wedding. Instead, we surprised everybody.
Oh my God. And it was such a great story. And I only know a little bit of it. Can you sort of share like what happened? Like,
sure.
You know, did nobody know? Like...
Yeah. So we decided we were going to have a big party for our 10th anniversary because part of being an entrepreneur, like it becomes you almost don't celebrate all of the milestones along the way. And then eventually you're like, oh my God, we really need to party. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so we got to the 10th anniversary and we realized we wanted to have a big party. So we started to phone people. We started to phone our family and friends. And we're like, hey, we're going to have this party. Do you think you want to come out? And everybody was saying yes. I don't know why I'm so surprised, but everybody was all for it. And so Colin, my now husband, and I were talking about it. And I was like, why don't we just have a surprise wedding? They're all going to be there. We don't actually have to plan a wedding. Oh. We've been together for 14 years as it was. We have a 5-year-old daughter. Yeah. Our daughter could be at the wedding. She could be part of the wedding. Yeah. And we just kind of like knock it out in the 20 minutes that it took during the party. And he was like, yeah, great. Sounds awesome.
Oh my God, that's such an entrepreneurial way to look at it. Knock it out in 20 minutes. Yeah. Now, did your daughter know that this was happening?
No.
So she was surprised as well?
She was surprised. There was, who knew? My husband's sister and brother knew, and only because they had to come all the way from Nova Scotia, and his sister actually had to leave her vacation to do it.
Wow.
So we told them, but that was it.
Yeah.
And Parker, it was funny because couple weeks before the wedding, she started to say, oh, Mommy, I'd really like to be a flower girl. I think it'd be really fun to be a flower girl. And she was picking out flower girl dresses. And so she wanted this beautiful flower girl dress for the party. So we bought that for her.
But she had no idea.
She had no idea. Oh. And then I gave my speech at the party. And I think my line was something like, this business has hijacked my life for the last 10 years. Yeah. And I'm going to hijack this effing party. And basically mic drop and walked away. And everybody was surprised and went over and grabbed Parker. I was like, hey, Parker, you're a flower girl right now. Let's go. And like put a basket in her hand. Oh and she was like, oh, we're like, just throw the flower petals. You'll be fine. And so she did that. And
what a trooper.
That was the wedding.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What a fun story. That's one that you'll remember.
Yeah, totally. It was pretty special. Thank you. Yeah.
Wow. Geez. You are leading an extraordinary life.
Oh, thank you.
It's got to feel good. There's other things that you do besides your business side.
Yeah.
So you also give back, and I don't know a lot about this organization, but it's called SheEO.
That's correct.
And it makes the hairs on my arm stand up every time I think about it. Could you fill me in and fill our listeners in on what that is? Because it's pretty freaking awesome.
Sure. Yeah. So SheEO is an organization founded by Vicki Saunders from Toronto. And basically it is an organization where thousands of women come together to radically support female founders through financial means, supportive means, mentorship. And what that looks like is every member of SheEO is an activator. Each activator contributes $1,100 to a fund. Yeah. And then that fund is then divided up between however many female-led ventures get selected for the round.
Wow.
So I was selected for the very first round.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I was one of the first 5 ventures that were selected in 2015. Wow. And basically you go through this whole full incredible weekend of mentorship and coaching, and then at the end of the weekend the 5 ventures are put in a room together.
Yeah.
We're all revealed, all of our negotiating styles are revealed to each other because they give you these tests in advance that you don't know what they're for.
Really?
So we all go in, we've spent a weekend together, we really love each other, and now all of our negotiating styles are on the table, and then we're told to negotiate for our portion of the fund that was available.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Very different model.
No kidding.
Yeah. So in our cohort there was $500,000 available and 5 ventures, and there were only 2 rules. Uh-huh. You can't split it 5 ways, and you can't give it all to one person.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Can you talk about this in at length? Like, what does that look like?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, what if you had just thrown 5 people in a room and told them to do that, it would have been a different experience.
Right.
But instead, they spent 2 full days working with us. We had 2 different coaches. One coach, a world-class coach out of San Francisco, MJ, she worked with us on our thinking styles, on some of the entrepreneurial stresses that we would face, some, like high-level fight or flight mechanisms, like what does stress look like. And then the other world-class coach is Lauren, and she worked with us on business strategy and financial strategy and really getting clear on where we were taking our business.
Yeah.
And in that, and you work through that with the 4 other ventures, and so you get to know each other really, really intimately.
Yeah.
And you know each other's businesses pretty intimately.
Wow.
So when you sit down to negotiate with them, it's not hardball. It's quite collaborative and respectful.
Wow.
And so in our case, we went around the table and we were well over the 500,000. Our first round was like 800,000. We're like, well, we're not gonna do that. So we went around again and we really dug into each other's business to find out what we really, really, really needed financially. And if there was some other things that we could get in a different way, maybe through a partnership between the brands at the table or mentorship or introductions. Yeah. And then we came back around, and at the second round, we were actually $70,000 below the 500,000 that were available. And then we went around the table again and pulled on the people who had not negotiated for enough. They just didn't negotiate for what they actually needed.
Oh my goodness.
And
so you guys came together to
So we came together
bring
and
each other up and
totally.
Oh, see, chills.
Yeah.
Like,
it's an incredible organization. So after that experience of the venture, I have been an activator every single year since.
Yeah.
The $1,100 is a line item in my budget. It's simple. Yeah. And we've funded over 30 female-led companies now, all with like world-changing ideas.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so inspiring. And now, is that just Canada?
No.
Okay.
It's Canada, US, New Zealand. They just launched somewhere else too, and I'm blanking on where it is. But what's interesting is the model Vicki's designed is something that can organically spring up anywhere.
Yeah. She
basically gives countries the tools to be able to launch it in their own country.
Wow.
And I mean, Vicki's vision is for 1 million activators and $1 billion perpetual fund.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, because you're going to hit a point where it's just always going to be there. And my God, if
well, already, because it's a loan, it's an interest-free loan, and so we're already paying back into the organization. So the ventures for my cohort have already paid back, I guess, 300,000. It's been almost 3 years, and so that funds 3 new ventures every year.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So imagine $1 billion perpetual fund to fund female-led ventures. That's powerful.
That is crazy powerful.
Yeah.
And, if any of the ventures are even remotely close to Abeego, I love this planet we're on right now. Like,
right.
Damn.
And they all are. Everybody is just incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Holy moly. That's inspiring.
Yeah.
Okay. So, geez, I don't think I really understood the scope of, the power of this until this very moment. So thank you for sharing that. And that's cool. I'm going to put the links as well down on the bottom. So, if there's other women out there that are listening, maybe that's something that they could look into becoming a part of, or at least,
for sure. Please become a venture.
Yeah.
Please become a venture. Apply to be a venture and apply and become an activator.
Become an activator.
It's the best $1,100 you'll spend all year.
No kidding.
There's nothing better.
So can anybody become an activator? Or is it women only can be activators?
It's women only.
Interesting.
For activators, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's, one of the things I love about the SheEO organization is that, you're hearing a lot about how hard women have to work and how underrepresented we are and how underfunded female-led companies are. Yeah. And what I love about SheEO is it's not about fighting for our right to exist or be or have. It's quite simply saying, you know what? We have everything we need.
Let's just do it.
Let's just do it ourselves. Like, we don't need to ask anybody for permission. Yeah. Let's just build the world we want to see. Yeah. And by the time everybody looks up from their belly buttons, it's going to be a different place.
Oh, love it. That is world changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. What's your, I know your business is your passion, your family is your passion, of course. What other things keep you going? Like what powers you up?
I mean, I'm so passionate about helping people understand food on a much deeper level, and it's taken me to understand it deeper for myself. And so I have an incredible garden. I grow a ton of food.
Yeah.
This year I think I was harvesting I can't even tell you how many pounds, but more tomatoes than I could even imagine. I canned them, I froze them, I roasted them, I dried them, I gave them away, and that was on five plants.
Really?
Yes, incredible amount.
That's one of my favorite smells in the entire world is a tomato plant.
It is a good smell.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites
You
too.
could just, if there's a garden around with tomatoes in it, you'll just find me lying under it.
Well, I have some old ones out there.
Yeah.
They're pretty picked over now, but yeah. So I do a lot of gardening, and I find for me there's something to be said about putting food back in your own hands.
Yeah.
You know, like we can grow so I feed myself out of my garden all summer long. Awesome. And my daughter and I have a tradition where we save one seed a year, and we've been doing this with her since she was 2. And so this year we saved kale seeds, and then we plant them the following year so she can understand that there is a cycle. Like, you don't need to go buy seeds. The plants produce the seeds, and then you grow them again.
Do you get stressed about like the Monsanto stuff where things are no longer producing seeds and there's like a patent on certain foods now? Does that enter your mind at all?
I don't pay super close attention to it, but I'll go back to the same thing. It's really a dumb idea to not let your plants produce seeds.
Yeah.
I mean, nature is so intelligent.
Yeah.
It's a shame that we can't get past our own intelligence to understand that at a deeper level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I stop messing with it.
Yeah.
It does really well on its own.
Well, I think one of the problems, and I identify this pretty strongly through Abeego, is that we live in this world where we think we have an incredible scarcity, right? So we're doing all these things to create abundance. But the truth is, if you think about it from a food perspective, we waste 50% of the food that we grow.
Oh my God.
50. Half of the food that we grow, we throw away.
That's
it is
shocking.
Outrageous. So we don't have a scarcity issue. Yeah. We have an abundance issue, and we're just not managing it well. Right. You know, so we don't have to do a whole bunch of crazy things. We could just treat our resource a little bit better.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, smart. Now you guys have got here on Vancouver Island, you guys have the agricultural something reserve.
Oh yeah, there's like the agricultural land reserve.
Land reserve, yeah.
Yeah.
So, which basically protects. I want to say in Alberta we have different types of reserves for animals and stuff like that to protect species, but you guys do that for farming as well to protect your food source, which is really cool and inspiring.
Yeah. We live on an island.
Yeah, good point.
And so if something were to ever happen and we couldn't get food here, it would be a shame.
Right.
But it is the thing that keeps me in Victoria. I'm from Calgary originally, but I right now have an abundance of fresh greens growing in my garden, and I just picked a bowl of strawberries. And right? And so it's the fresh food that just keeps me here. Once you have it, you really can't go back.
Right. It's got to be life altering. Mm-hmm. I got to go back to Safeway. Damn it.
Right.
Son of a gun.
I'll send you home with some stuff from the garden.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so one of your brand advocates is the mighty avocado.
Right. We have a very good relationship with the avocado.
No, not a lot of people have got a good relationship with
does.
avocado. Mm-hmm. Can you walk the listeners through this? Because I know this story because I lived this story.
Right.
But avocados are terrible.
People think avocados are terrible, but the way we store them is terrible.
Right.
So we'll back up to Abeego being the new peel for your food.
Yeah.
What you need to remember is that your avocado peel is breathable. It's not airtight. So when you cut your avocado in half and then you seal, lock it, and trap it into an airtight environment, it can't live. And it gets all sweaty and condensation builds and it turns black and it turns really nasty really fast.
Yeah.
However, if you cut your avocado in half and you put Abeego over it and you let that cut side breathe, it will stay fresh much longer. I've had avocados that actually just form a new skin over the cut surface, and like a millimeter down, it's a super green fresh avocado.
Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's shocking to me because that's my biggest issue with the avocado is the fact that not even the next day, within like an hour of wrapping it, it's turning.
Right. Yeah. And so that brings up a few things. Like what I see with people mostly with avocados is it goes back to food waste. Either they buy it, cut it in half, and expect to throw the other half away, right. And that's okay. Or they don't buy it at all because they're so tired of throwing it away.
Right.
Or they eat the entire avocado in one sitting because they don't want to waste the other half.
Right.
That's your relationship with avocados. Yeah.
So before I was asking what you do to sort of keep yourself powered up and inspired, and we talked about SheEO,
mm-hmm.
You've got your garden. Yep. Are you a big reader?
When I can.
Yeah. Okay.
I try to read, but I'm always quite busy, and so I don't.
Pretty switched on all the time.
Yeah. I think there's something else that I do that keeps me fresh that is it might be unique. I am a incredible ideas person. I have more ideas than I could ever utilize in my entire life. Yeah. And I went through a period, especially with Abeego, after being so inspirational and seeing many other pop on the market. Yeah. I went through this point where I actually started to withhold all my ideas, and I just kept them secret. Mm-hmm. And I started to realize that I wasn't having any ideas anymore. They just weren't coming. Yes, it's weird, right? Huh. And so I made the commitment that if the idea that I was having was not for me right now, I would think of who it was for, and I would call them and give it to them. So now I quite regularly pick up the phone or email random people and say, I actually think this idea is better for you. Yeah. Maybe you've thought about it, or maybe you can run with it.
Wow.
Yeah. And I find that helps me generate even more ideas.
That is a really interesting observation, I think, in so many ways. That, we as people, if we become closed off, to protect ourselves, we end up harming ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a very obvious process for me, actually.
Wild.
Yeah.
Huh. So what's, can you say what's your latest and greatest idea? Or do you have anything that's brewing right now that you're really excited about?
I have things that I obsess about. I'm just not ready to launch them. So I'll actually put this idea out there. And if there's anybody that's part of the way into this idea, you can reach out to me. Maybe we can do it together.
Nice.
Yeah. But after inventing breathable food wrap, and like the whole concept of breathable food wrap came from Abeego, I realized I take my beautiful fresh living food, put it in my beautiful breathable food wrap, and then I lock it in my big giant airtight plastic box refrigerator.
Yeah.
And I hate the refrigerator. It's noisy. Yeah. It doesn't smell good. It's a pain to clean. And I absolutely want to reinvent the refrigerator.
Damn. You don't go small.
No, well, why would you?
Awesome. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen out there in the world who have, would like to team up with Toni or talk about teaming up about reinventing a refrigerator.
Yes.
Links will be in the description. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Do you read books to your daughter?
Yes.
What's the favorite book right now?
Anything by Mo Willems.
Okay.
The Elephant and Piggy series.
Okay.
If you have kids, it is the best. It's hilarious. The characters are so well done.
Yeah.
And anything Pete the Cat. Those are like her top books. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yes.
All right. Colin, an author.
Yep.
As well.
Yep.
What's on his shelf, or what drives him?
Colin typically has 15 books going at the same time.
Wow.
It's obscene. And he reads through all of them, and he can remember everything that he's reading, and he can make all these cross references between books, and he is an incredible consumer of literature. Wow. It kind of blows my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm lucky if I have got one book on the go.
I don't know how his bedside table holds up all the books he's reading.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you guys are living a life well lived.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for inspiring so many of us. I think this is amazing. I'm grinning. You can't see this, but I'm grinning ear to ear right now. So thanks for being on the show,
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's fun.
Yeah, thanks. And this ends season 1 with a bang and a mic drop.
Yay! That's awesome.
We're between seasons the month of December, so I invited some of our American friends and inspiring entrepreneurs to the show to talk about what they're up to south of the 49th. We're between seasons the month of December, so I've invited some of our American friends and other inspiring entrepreneurs to the show to talk about what they're up to south of the 49th. Don't forget, RebelRebel every Monday. We'll be back with Season 2 officially on January 7th, so stay tuned and don't forget to subscribe. You can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, and of course the RebelRebelPodcast.com, our website, or on social media at RebelRebelPod. Thanks again for listening to Season 1.